Before we jump in, a quick reminder that we publish our premium podcast, 19 Minutes, 3 times a month on the 9th, 19th, and 29th. It's a short, focused update designed to help you think ahead and make faster, clearer decisions. You can subscribe using the link in the description. Thanks.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Ag View Pitch. We are going to talk 2025 lessons today, and then how we're going to apply those into 2026. And so far, before we started recording, we had all kinds of banter going on back and forth between these guys about gray hair and intelligence and birthdays and all kinds of fun stuff. So anybody got any comments for anybody else on the team here? And then we'll get started on the real stuff.
Well,
I think Jeremy's go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just going to say, we were talking about gray hairs and how they come in the beard quick. Shay, you were worried about it. Just wait till your kids start driving. Because I think that's about the time where I went from really nice dark looking beard to like almost Santa beard when I had two kids on the road driving.
The wisdom came in fast, huh?
Yeah, that's when that happened.
Okay, perfect.
You got Andy shaking in his boots. I can already see he's got
it's
wild kids running around.
If they drive vehicles like they drive their Razor around here, there'll be a lot of gray hair.
I don't know. You guys might want to up your insurance premium or, increase those levels of coverage a little bit. Maybe put your kids in an LLC or something, that might. So sounds good. All right. I suppose we better get to the real thing here. We're wrapping up 2025. Who knows when people listen to this, but there was some lessons in 2025, I think, for a lot of us. I think some things that were pretty painful to learn, and there were some things that were a little more lighter hearted along the way too. So I guess we didn't talk about who wanted to go first, but I'm going to ask it. Does anybody on the team here want to go first on a key lesson learned in 2025, or lessons that you've seen from other clients or things like that? Don't everybody jump first.
I'll go. I mean, I've talked to, I think, Joe and Chris, I've talked to you both about this on my own farm. And, I think a key lesson that I have, I guess let me just take a step back. Some of the things that have been frustrating on our farm is that we've grown record yields the last 2 years in a row, and we still aren't showing a hell of a lot of profitability, and so we went down the rabbit hole of, where we can, start, pulling back expenses or returning to profitability. And, it kind of just hit me like a freight train that, the second biggest line item in my expense, the machinery side of it, I have too much of it. And, that was really a lesson learned, is I've got too high a machinery operating costs. And, so, I'm wanting to get a little bit lean and mean. That's a little bit of a process. That's not, for us, it's probably not going to be something I can rectify in year one, all entirely. But I'm certainly going to try to get aggressive in moving some pieces that that aren't as efficient. Maybe going back down to one planner, trying to get the crew a little bit leaner, and the machinery working a little bit better for me from that side of it. I think that's really what has killed a lot of my profitability. We could talk about the commodity prices and seed prices and all that, but being agronomically economic on growing those bushels. When I look back at some of the fixed expenses and the overhead expenses, a big lesson learned is that I get too much labor and I have too much machinery.
Well, if you want, Jeremy, it's December 31st. I take gifts in all shapes and sizes if you're looking to downsize. I don't think that helps the working capital position, but
no. It helped the income statement maybe just a little bit, and some taxes that I might be able to carry forward if I ever return to profitability. But yeah.
Can you talk through specifically what you're thinking on strategy there? Is it like for the machinery, is it right sizing into the right class of combine? Is it taking a tractor away? Can you talk kind of what's on your mind there?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, good question. So, I've got we used to farm quite a bit more. We unwound a collaboration, and we really never right-sized that equipment after that collaboration was unwound. And so what we ended up doing is, I mean, I've got I've got two planters. I've got an interplant for beans. I've got a 30, a 16 row for corn. I'm wanting to get rid of the bean planter, go into, just really strip till, hiring it out, doing a little custom hire there. By doing that, I think I've got two tractors that are pushing 5,000 hours. I'm looking to trade both of those for one tractor that's kind of the same amount of horsepower, but a little bit more versatile. If you're a John Deere guy, I'm going for, I'm wanting to go from an 8230 and a 9220 to like a 845R. I'm sorry, 830, 8345R. God, I couldn't spit that out. That would, be able to handle some of the um, potentially conventional stuff that we do with our hog manure and that type of stuff. But I'm really wanting to go to strip till. I'm wanting to downsize equipment, get rid of, a couple passes, or at least the need for some of this extra equipment. I've got two dump carts, wanting to trade that in for one to be a little bit more efficient. On just trips back and forth. Both are under 1,000 bushels, so it's a little annoying that you can't just pull up and load a semi with one of them. So little things like that, and trying to get myself a little bit more lean and mean and right sized on the machinery.
Thanks, Jeremy.
Sometimes that's kind of tough too, Jeremy, isn't it? Or well, and if you haven't started doing that yet, it seems like in the past when we've helped some guys right size, like you mentioned, the two grain carts and switching those into one sometimes might save a little bit of money, but it's tough because you're going to want a really good grain cart, and you're going to, you change some things around, and it's tough to get, the total investment dollar amount in line. You can right size the equipment, but getting those dollars is a challenge. So it's going to be fun to watch you and help you do that, because I think that's something that I think a lot of guys are probably looking at. When you look at machinery and equipment fleet, I'm sure there's probably one or two people at least that are listening to this that probably are like, yeah, I got a little more equipment than I need. It's either got to farm more acres or right size the fleet. And that's really good. Who wants to go next with a lesson from 25?
I can. One thing I noticed with working with some AgView clients is the lack of distractions and the compounding effects of that. It's seems like operations that have less distractions, whether that's diversification or tons of other things going on, are pretty laser focused on their business, and that tends to pay dividends to them. So that's been pretty eye opening for us. I mean, we have quite a bit of diversification in our operation. It's not that I want to unwind that, but it's maybe we need to rethink our labor pool and taking stuff off of my plate and some others' plates to allow us to not have the distractions and maybe be quote unquote a little bored, because it seems like when you do have that downtime, that's when you really focus in on some of the things you really need to, that you never take the time to do.
Like what type of things?
I mean, I think you could do it. For me, it'd be a better job marketing grain. It would be looking into different equipment deals or spending more time on input procurement. Just a lot of, I think there's a lot of things you could do to pick up 1 to 2% savings that you kind of like. For myself, I just do it as a checklist. Like, hey, I know I need to order fertilizer. I'm going to check with 2 suppliers opposed to taking a half a day and maybe checking with 5.
Mm-hmm.
And grain marketing, it's I know where I want to be. I got some targets, but it's like, am I watching basis daily, or am I looking at spreads or different opportunities that I know there are out there, but I just don't have the time capacity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Andy, also, like you said, you got a lot of different things going on. Is there, do you see any like one thing that you need to be doing more of in 2026 that's, you talk about distractions, what's your core competency and what do you need to do more of? Because sometimes you're doing a little less of something, maybe you can enhance something else. Just kind of curious
Yeah.
on that.
For me, it's less time outside and more time in the office. It's pretty easy to get pulled outside when the weather's nice and we got tons of things going on, and we might, you kind of need that extra person outside. Could they get by without them? Yes, but you naturally want to go help and be part of the team. And I think that the business really suffers from that distraction there. Back to
I,
we're doing $30 an hour jobs opposed to $300 an hour jobs.
Mm-hmm. It's easy to
I
do.
found a fix for that, Andy.
What's that?
You don't put on work clothes when you leave the house in the morning.
Yeah,
That
but
would
then
do
you
it.
just wreck some of your good clothes then, because I've done that. You go out and you have to hook a hydraulic hose up, and then you get grease all over that nice pair of shorts. So, all right, sounds good. Thanks, Andy. Who wants to go next? There's three of us. One of us.
Go does.
Okay.
I guess I'll go. So, a bunch of lessons, we're always learning, right? And you know, this year, the thing that probably stood out the most was how important like good culture is. And uh and it can be a productivity tool. It's helped us attract some new people, high caliber people, which has given us horsepower to take on some additional work that just happened to kind of fall into our laps. And that's been, and that's how I plan on deploying it in 2026 is now I have the people to do it. Yesterday, my wife and I were sitting here having coffee the other morning, and I was putting together kind of a state of the farm PowerPoint. I'm meeting with my banker here in 2 weeks, and it's a kind of a new relationship. The banker's new, since Jeremy left. The analyst, I asked for the analyst to come along with when we do the meeting, and I happened to, as I was putting that presentation together, I'm just trying to give them context of where what our story is, because that makes a difference. And I was looking at my PowerPoint presentation from my peer group 5 years ago, and one of the reoccurring themes in that um forget how I worded it, that labor was one of the issues, that I probably need to hire some more people, because that was the common theme of why my idea of the week wouldn't work, is because I didn't have the people to deploy any of my ideas. And now we got the people, and now we're able to, deploy some of those things. Another thing which was huge, is I rented a tractor this fall, just to have on the high speed disc, so that way we weren't trading things back and forth. I've only got one high horsepower tractor for the strip till bar, and the tractor was a $200,000 tractor, $230,000 tractor, and the dealership rented it to me for $150 an hour with no minimum. And I think the total bill on the thing was like $17,000, something like that. And if you work, you think about that, hell, that would have just barely covered the interest bill on if I would have purchased that tractor. And no maintenance cost. We changed oil on it once. So that was it was good for me. It was good for the dealer. Gotten to be good friends with that guy, and he's got a lot of inventory, and he was more than happy to work something out. And so that's kind of my highlights of there's other lessons learned, but those were some of the big ones that stuck out.
The state of the farm address, how much time have you spent putting that together, or how much time you think you'll have into that? And can you just kind of comment real quick on why you find that useful or what it does for you and the rest of your team, the banker, the whoever?
Yeah. So I think I'm probably going to have like 2 hours in it. I'm not super efficient with PowerPoint, so some of it's learning. Um, the um, I find a huge value in trending
Hmm.
your financials, whether it's your just simple stuff like total liabilities, total assets, and equity. I've got a spreadsheet or a chart that goes back to my very first year of farming. It's got 20 years of data on that of what my debt to asset ratio has been through that entire run. And us as farmers tend to laser focus in on 1 year at a time. And um, so if that year is bad, oh my God, it's all bad. And but if you kind of zoom out to the 30,000 foot view and you look at your the trend, and it's like, well, we're trending in the right direction. And putting this presentation together has just given me some really good perspective on the business. We've made some major changes here in the last 3 or 4 years. We totally switched colors from red to green. We've added quite a bit of acreage in that time point. We've added people. It's been a big 5 years for us, and then being able to see how those financials are trending through these big changes gives great perspective to where the business is going, why we're doing what we're doing, and it just helps the bank understand, this is what we're trying to do, and these are the ways that we're going to tackle it.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
Sounds good,
I'll
Joe.
just give you just a real quick perspective. Shay, you were talking about how does it help partners, and one thing I would just say from being a recovering banker is that all of the detail that you could put in your state of the farm address helps an analyst or the lender or the credit team. It helps them understand like the gaps that they can't see in the numbers. And I feel like a lot of the times that's where things can go amiss with your lending team, is it, if the questions aren't answered, what assumptions are they making in place of you providing that data? And naturally, I think lending institutions tend to be a little bit more pessimistic. So a lot of the assumptions I think end up not being in your favor. So from just an ex-lender perspective, the more details you can put in there that just clarifies what the numbers are telling you, will help you immensely on how your lending team views your operation.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeremy.
Hey, Jeremy, kind of, just to ask a question that maybe a bunch of people might be thinking is, things look pretty rough from a lot of the guys. Is there any, like one or two things that needs to be highlighted or needs to be focused on for a lot of these operations that, have maybe had 1 or 2 or 3 years of not real good numbers? And, is there like kind of one or two things they should really focus on in that state of the business address or trajectory they're working toward or whatever? Is there something that you look for as a lender that those of us who have been trying to manage through a 3-year window here need to be doing?
Yeah, I think just action as to what you're doing to fix whatever the issue is. Highlight that. I like Joe.
Don't
When
cover
Joe,
it up.
yeah, don't cover it up, but like it's okay to say, well, in my situation, okay. I mean, the last 2 years I've had record profits and I haven't made money. So
Net
I
record
need to go.
yields.
Record
Yeah,
deals.
Yeah.
that's what I meant. Sorry,
Yeah.
record yields, but haven't made any money. And so, in my meeting here in few weeks, I'm addressing that. I'm highlighting what I'm doing to return to profitability. And I've got, like what Joe said, we've got trends, that show that we've gone in the right direction over the course of, 20 years. Our assets have, our equity positions have gotten better. We've burned some working capital. We've had some things that, didn't work out for us in the last couple of years. But if you go in with a solid plan of how to return to profitability or actions you're taking to solve this, that I think that's the number one. That's the number one thing you can do. If you go in hoping for your lending team to fix your issue or saying I just don't realize, I just need to grow more corn or I need to grow this, that I'm not sure that's exactly addressing what the concerns of the lender are. So, you know return to profitability, how you get there, actions you're taking, highlight all that.
Gotcha. Thanks.
I'll go, Chris. I'm, curious. We were joking. I don't have as many gray beards as Jeremy does, gray hairs on my beard as Jeremy does here. But I've been thinking a lot recently of as we go throughout the year, I think everybody experiences this, but it's the real highs and lows of like, you feel really good that you're doing things right. Your path is good. You've done a good job marketing. And the next day, it's just like someone kicked you in the nuts and everything's going to hell. We're going to fail. It's not. And I think I wanted to highlight that and say it out loud because I know we've all talked about it individually. And for the people listening to this, that's a very real thing. One day you feel that you're on top of the world, and then the next day, the two semi trucks out here in the parking lot are froze up, and the legs are froze up, and everybody's grumpy, and it's just like, what in the hell are we doing all this for? And so I think I've had to take a step back in 2025 and look at the wins that we've had. We still have had record yields in some area. We're getting more done than we ever have before. We're setting the baseline foundation so that when we get out of this period of a lack of profitability, we're set up for success as we move forward. And I think that's probably an area for me to continue to focus on of like, you just have to remind yourself we're doing the right things. And you have to almost like paint that narrative to yourself of here's why we're doing the right things. And so I think the exercise of explaining it to the banker, explaining it to your business partners, taking the time like Andy alluded to just reflect and make those good business decisions is something I've really had to focus on. And my lesson from 2025 is the only way that I'm able to do that is to backfill my role in other areas of the business at a faster rate than what I have been. And Chris, you've said it before that, and I just say this from what you've said, I've done a pretty good job delegating at an earlier in my career, but I need to do it faster, and it's backfilling my weaknesses and letting people take over certain areas of the business that I'm just not as good at. And it's also making sure that I'm taking more time to do the right things. And an example of that, both Joe and Andy alluded to, back in October, we had Joe, I think you might have actually sent me this link. I don't remember who it was, but there's a strip till no till program out there that for the county, you applied, they were only going to do X number of acres. Well, I basically locked myself in this office for 6 hours to fill out this stupid application. And we're likely going to get $35,000 for what we're already planning to do in our business. Well, that just hired one guy for half a year because I spent half a day in the office. And you don't get those opportunities all the time. But I'm just sitting here when I got that email 2 days ago, it's like, what the hell else am I missing? When I'm out trying to, the conveyors need unfrozen. That still needs done, but I don't have to do it, and those guys don't mind doing it. They want to work. They want to be outside. They want to be doing those things. And I think that's just been my biggest thing is backfilling my role, get things off of my plate. And I think some people feel that delegating is like taking all the shit things that you don't want to do and giving them to someone else. And in some cases, that's true. Sometimes that's what you hire people to do is to do the shit things that you don't want to do. But there's also delegation that's good things of, how do I reframe this and say, I need to train my employees to do the roles that I need to do. And if I don't give them the experience, they're never going to get the experience. Time takes time and experience requires experience. So I'm trying to lean into that into 2026, and hopefully that helps us capitalize more on the high level management things that we need to be taking more time to do.
That's a fantastic point, Shay, and that's something that Chris um instilled into me almost from the beginning. He used to say, always be hiring your replacement. And I've had clients before say to me, well, if I hire somebody to do, like, what am I going to do? Oh, you'll find stuff to do. There's always plenty to do. And you're building room in the system. Like when you're maxed out and frantic trying to get everything done yourself, there's no room for additional opportunities. And when you got the people, you got the horsepower to do it, and the bandwidth, never
Mark,
underestimate the bandwidth.
my father-in-law, Mark, has commented several times on just how much more money is in the world today. And which is very true of the last 5 years, because like 80% of the currency has been printed in the last 5 years, but minor detail. We'll worry about inflation later. But the idea is that it's like we also, we look at downsizing on a lot of these things, or how do we save and I'm not negating this. Both things are true, but how do you save money on fertilizer? Like Andy said, how do you right size equipment? The other thing that I think a lot of farmers that we work with don't take into consideration is what else is out there. And it doesn't have to be diversification. It can be the laser focus on what do we need to be doing in our business to make money or save bigger amounts of money. Energy saving grants, that's a big one. Solar panel projects for home use, that's been a big one. Just the sheer amount of dollars that are out there, it's kind of staggering, actually.
Shay, I had a question for you. Having been in the military world and the precision and the expectations, and just we're a little softer in the rest of the world. How do you handle that, or how do you feel like you're doing if you're grading yourself in terms of delegating and stuff? Because I think you guys, I've noticed that with Sloan too. You guys are way better trainers. I mean, as farmers, we suck at training the employees. I mean, we'll give them the responsibility, but then we really suck at training. How would you grade yourself? I mean, and is there any advice you would give people as they're doing that and putting these people in those roles and doing those things? Because I think that's a big piece of it.
Well, I'm not going to ruin my presentation for the AgView Solutions Executive Business Conference, but
Hey, don't do that.
No. I think about this a lot. Is the things that we do in the farm, most 95%, 98% of the time, is not a life or death scenario. It's okay to allow people to make mistakes. And I think there's so many people are hesitant to hand over control, because what if they screw it up? Okay, what if they screw it up? What's the worst case scenario? The guys didn't close some of the covers on the conveyors here before they left on Christmas. We got freezing rain. They didn't empty the beans out of the trap. So guess what? They spent 4 hours yesterday unfreezing every freaking conveyor and every elevator that we have. And I didn't get mad about it, because yesterday afternoon they were running, and guess what? I bet they don't forget to cover everything when they leave next time ever again. And I wasn't upset about the downtime, because there was a lesson learned there that I can't just teach that. I can say, hey, close the freaking trap, and I can get mad about it if they don't do it or whatever, but that doesn't teach the same lesson as what they're going to learn. So, I was thinking about this last night, actually, with one of our new hires. There was a situation where he needed to move some stuff around, and he didn't have confirmation if he was good to do it. And I was like, just get stuff done. Like, that's what I'm hiring you to do, is get stuff done. You have the autonomy to make decisions. I'm hiring you to use your brain. And again, Chris, you're probably like, oh man, not everybody would just like think like that, but I deployed with this guy, so he gets it. And I was just like, I'm hiring you to use your brain. Use your brain. Like, I want you to think, I want you to make this operation better. I don't want you to do the same things every day that we've been doing. We have another guy we hired in. I want to hand off all of our maintenance program to him. Like, I don't give a shit what's going on with the tractor. I don't care what's broken. I just need it to be fixed, and I'm giving you control to do that. And the weight of the responsibility is if something doesn't work or something isn't fixed correctly, then that's on you. But I'm not going to be mad at you about it for handing that responsibility off because I need to be doing other things. So I think it's recognizing that it's not life or death scenarios. It's okay to hand off some of those tasks and responsibilities. If they don't get done perfectly according to your standard, they'll get there. And the likely scenario is when I teach these guys and hand off and let them do things, they're going to see 7 things that I didn't see to do the job better. And then they're going to do it better than me. And it's like, that's what I want. I want someone to condition soybeans better than me. I want someone to truck better than me. I want someone to do maintenance better than me. Because that's what, the mission in this case, that's what the mission requires, is for us to get better and to do things more efficiently.
Yeah. Even if they're not doing it exactly the same way you would, it's still getting done, right? I mean,
yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's still like the reasons that you have SOPs and doctrine and stuff in place in the military is there is a right way to do things. There are things that you don't want to do, but it doesn't mean that everybody's going to go hit the target the same way. You give 10 military leaders the same information and they're probably going to attack the same target 10 different ways. Does the mission get accomplished?
Mm-hmm.
If it does, then that's probably okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Shay. Appreciate it. I'll wrap up with the lessons learned, and then we'll go full circle and wrap the whole thing up. But I guess mine is kind of rhymes a little bit with what you guys have been saying. Mine's a little bit. I give a little bit of a backstory. In my family operation, my brother retired a couple of years ago, and he was replaced by Sloan, my son, which had a different role. So our accounting switched over to my nephew, to TJ, and so when he left, we kind of backfilled him, but just in a different space, and we kind of reallocated the labor force. And then my brother-in-law retired and basically isn't able to work, and so we essentially lost his labor contribution to the business, and we didn't replace his his contributions to the labor force. And then we just had another guy who was our primary truck driver retire this last year. My role's gotten busier with AgView, and so I have a few less hours that I can contribute back to the farm, and so we haven't replaced any of this labor. And I think sort of in an effort to reduce labor cost. And I'm pretty damn suspicious that it's increasing our labor cost. And what I mean by that is we're not getting stuff done that we should be getting done in time, because when somebody leaves, I think sometimes we think, well, we're got to save the money, and I did 2 different 19 minutes this summer, and people need to go back and listen to them because I spent a lot of time working on them. But one was on scarcity mindset. And I feel like when we get in one of these economic troughs, we get into this scarcity mindset where we got to save money. And we do. But the last time I checked, and this is just experience, and I don't have a gray hair, I shave it off so that way it's not gray here, but it's still gray hair. But I have experienced over the years, just in watching operations and watching our own, where you can't save yourself to prosperity. You can manage expenses and you can manage costs to a point, but you can manage them so much that you start going the other way. There's too much of something. And that's one of the things that I'm observing right now with some of our clients. I think they're on the razor's edge of maybe doing too much of that. And I think, and where I'm going with this is on the labor side of it. This comes down to time tracking. For those of us who are not as disciplined on it, we need to get disciplined on our time tracking. If we're the ones running the operation, we need to figure out where our time's being spent. And the only way you do that is to track it, and then you have some data to reconcile and to make some changes. I know in my family's operation, it takes 22,000 hours to get everything done. At the end of the day today, I'm going to pull in our T-sheets, and I don't know what it is right now, but I'm pretty damn sure that we got less hours. In fact, I know we do, because we have less people, and you can only put in so much time. There's only 24 hours in a day, and people can't work 16 hours a day every day all day long, or you you screw up what Joe's trying to fix, which is called culture and morale. And so I think, my lesson learned from 2025 is to stand up for the understanding that employees are not an expense, they're an investment. No different than buying a tractor or buying a combine or building an office or whatever it is. If you don't have the resources to do everything, and one thing we never put on the balance sheet, Mr. Banker, I'll pick on you, is the people. I mean, how often do we turn a balance sheet in that we say, here's John and here's Bill and here's Dave and here's their contributions, here's what they do to the business. I think we need to step back and do a better job of that because I see that in my family's operation right now, to where we're going to have to make a change in 2026 to make sure that we have enough resources to get the work done, and not just get it done, but to do it well and to do it excellent, not pretty damn good or getting by, because getting by does not improve profitability. And so that's kind of my lesson learned from 2025 is making sure that you have enough investment in those resources, and stop trying to save money on not hiring somebody or not replacing somebody. If that person was there, something was getting done. If they leave, how do you still get that done? And I think, for our whole team here, we see it and we live it. And I think that's the great thing about, I think, what we can do at AgView is, because we live it, I think we can help people understand some of the decisions they need to make. And maybe that's a sales pitch, but it is. I mean, we understand it because we live it. And I think, that's where, I always tell people, make sure you call us and have that 8-minute conversation around, geez, what should I do here? Sometimes it's an 8-minute conversation to just make a frickin' decision and then do it. So I think that's kind of my lesson for from 25 and the application for 26 is we're going to have to replace some labor and stop having a mindset of scarcity, as opposed to, and when things get good, watch how many people have an abundance mindset. That's when farms gets bought. That's when machinery gets updated, all that kind of stuff. And that's when people overextend. And the same thing happens on the other side of the equation. Then, when things get bad, we get a scarcity mindset and we don't do enough. So
I think the other way, and I'd be curious your input on this, Chris. I think the other thing that people push back on with the labor side is, well, how do you measure what success looks like? Because as Jeremy said, if we're getting everything done, we got record yields and everything else, but we're not showing profitability. Well, how do we rethink that labor? So, I mean, do you pair that with, what's your quality of life? Do you have a quality of life rating for the employees, or how do you truly measure what success looks like on that end? Because what people struggle with, I think, is it's one of those intangibles of, the culture's right. That people aren't working 16 hours a day. Aside from the time, is there any, how do you measure that, I guess? How do you define what success looks like there?
Well, I think it has a lot to do with each of us as owners of the business, because I think we carry stress that, all of us do, right? We carry the stress of the whole business, and we talk about delegating. Well, we aren't going to delegate the stress off of us until we delegate some of the workload. It comes right back to what, either you or Andy, one of you were saying, the $30 an hour jobs that we go out and do, and we're sitting there thinking about all this other shit we got to get done that we're not getting done.
Yep.
And so I think it's a stress thing. When you talk about quality of life, it's a mindset, right? That scarcity mindset comes from stress. And so I think we got to step back and say, we got to delegate this, we got to delegate that. And, Joe, I give you a lot of credit, of everybody I worked with in the last couple of years. You've probably done the best job of building a team and bringing a culture to that team and growing it. But the one thing that we all have to do a better job of is when you have an opportunity to hire somebody or to delegate somebody or train somebody, you damn well better be doing it quick. and get on it, you know. And the best time, and I think I've told you this before, Joe, too, you know, when we first started having these conversations, it's like, you know, even planting or the things that we think that we love to do, we want to do, sometimes you need to cross train too. And the best time to cross train is when you're having the most fun. It's like when you're going across the field, you got the end rows all in and you're planting and you got another 150 acres to plant and you're just going back and forth eating a sandwich, listening to the radio, just enjoying life, because this is why you do it. That's the time to train them. That's the time to get your ass out of the seat, put somebody in there, let them do the easy stuff, because that's how they learn. And then they can start doing the end rows and some of the other stuff too. You know, that's just an analogy, but you know, I think that's what I think a lot of times we miss and don't do. Consequently, Shay, then we have the stress, and it's subconscious, but
Yeah,
then it leads to scarcity mindset.
that's a great answer. Thank you.
So
We I've told the story before, and to just elaborate one step further on the hiring, um, you know, hiring the right person makes a huge difference in making sure that they align with your core values, and understanding like what type of person you're really looking for. I had a guy at TPAP the very first year that I was there. I was up in the you know, the hospitality suite, um, you know, hanging out, met a guy from Canada, and he told a story about how he used to wait for the work before he would hire the person. And he said, I had that backwards. I should have just always been hiring, always had my eye out. And when a good person came along, didn't matter what was going on, I just picked them up. And he goes, the work always came. You know, if I had the people, I was able to take advantage of the opportunities. The opportunities seemed to show up. And so that's one thing that I wanted to kind of drill down on is just always be looking, you know, and opportunities always come in inopportune times. And you know, you need to it that's when you strike when the iron's hot, is you know, when the opportunity comes, not when it's convenient.
Awesome.
I stole that quote from Andy Ruby. I've said that in like a couple podcasts. I've been like, yeah, so I got to give credit to Andy Ruby on this one, but the best opportunities always come at the worst time. And you
So
said that
true.
like
Yeah.
back
Every time.
the last time we were talking or something, and I stole that. So it's a good
Well,
comment.
and that's kind of back to my point of being bored a little bit, is if you are and you have some free time, you can be prepared for those opportunities too, because when they come at the worst time, and usually you're super busy or don't have time to crunch numbers or meet with the banker, you know, if it's a growth opportunity. But if you
Mhm.
have some flexibility now, you can be prepared for that. So when those opportunities come, it's yes, I know I can do that. I know that's in the wheelhouse of what works for our business.
Mhm.
So
And I'm going to reiterate this at the risk of like, yeah, duh. But if you're not doing it in your business, no one else is. It's not getting done. Like
yeah.
anybody can change the oil in a tractor. If you're not doing those things, no one's doing it. No one's coming to save you.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Hey, what I want to do is I'm gonna start with Jeremy, and then I just want a quick answer or a long answer. I don't care. You can answer however you want, but I'm gonna give you my takeaway from what your deal was. So so Jeremy, yours was you're gonna right size your equipment, try to lean things down, and make sure that the operation is lean enough and mean enough to continue to make high yields, but yet be profitable. What's the one or two things you're going to do first in 26?
Um, so first in 26, you know, I would say I spent a lot of time talking about the equipment I'm working on, with the two different dealerships on getting some quotes on the two tractors I want to move. Trying to find an 8345R. We took the initiative this fall to strip till all of our corn, and so we already have a little bit of a leg ahead on getting that done. Moving, you know, almost 100% to strip till is kind of the the goal, but we've already taken that on our corn ground. So we've been a little bit, since probably September, pre-harvest, we talked a lot about some of that. We've been a little bit more laser focused on actions we've wanted to take for 26. So have prepared a little bit there. Like I said, I want to move some assets, and am looking to do that here before we get back into the field. I want to cross train a couple of my guys to be doing some other things as well so that I can still focus on procurement. That's I think a big area as well of getting lean and mean is on the agronomic side, and so those are key steps here in the next few months is to get some machinery moved, really sharpen the pencil on the procurement and get people cross trained so things can still get done.
Awesome. That's on record now, dude. So we're going to hold you accountable.
Yeah, I know. I figured that's where you're going with this.
Yeah. We'll be following up, man. And the thing I want the listeners to be paying attention to is be thinking about your thing. The listeners, what is your deal? What's the lesson from 2025 and what are you going to do in 26? Andy, you're up.
Yeah, I think it's focusing on the jobs that need done in the office and not getting distracted with what's going on outside per se or in the shop. And then also, I think Joe, back to that story you were telling, is keeping your eyes open for the right employees. It's for us personally, I don't think we need any more help turning wrenches or running equipment, but on the administrative business side is where we do, and it's looking for those right people and finding them.
Awesome. Sounds good. We'll be holding you accountable too.
Sounds good.
All right, Joe.
I guess in 26 is just a little bit using the people that we have to uh lean on them to give me more time to focus on the things that I need to be focusing on, and allowing myself to be a little bit bored, as it were. That's a good way to put it, Andy.
I got to get that way. I haven't figured that one out yet either. So
I'm not
Yeah.
good at it by any means.
yeah. And I
My
think
ADHD really interferes with that.
yeah. And maybe Andy, your definition of bored isn't like how I'm taking it, but it's like the ability to sit down, stare at the wall and think. Just
Yes.
think.
Yep.
I mean,
Think, or I think we can all relate to this. When you're doing those $30 an hour jobs, you think about stuff you have to do, but also other things you are intrigued by or want to pursue. So I guess my definition of bored is having the time to, personal example, I want to use more AI. I started using some AI stuff within our business and you see a ton of efficiency.
mhm.
I am at the beginner stage of it, but I can see the power of using it from a time management standpoint
Oh,
and
yeah.
how fast and effective I can do things. But I need to be bored enough to have time to learn that to be able to be more efficient doing it.
Gotcha. Awesome. Shay,
I'm going to make a list of specifically what I need to delegate in 2026 and then take that list, hand it off to the employees or the other people in the team, and reiterate what my expectations are of those delegated tasks. Supply management. You can order pallets and bags and slips. I don't need to do that. Just something stupid like that I've been hanging on to. And it's like, I'm sitting here thinking, why? Why in the hell do I need to be the one to order? It doesn't matter. Like, just put that in charge of someone else. But reiterating the expectations of, I'm hiring you, we are hiring you to advance the business, not just run the business. You are here for the goal. And I think that's what I need to reiterate is clearly mapping out the expectations of here's where we are, here's where we want to get. And guess what? You're a crucial part of that ladder to get us there. So lean into that. And then, by doing those things, it's just focus on how do we make more money? I mean, that's the environment that we're in right now on need to make more money. And what are the ways to do that? Is it getting laser focused, like Andy said, on certain areas of the business? doing a better job marketing? Are there opportunities like Joe's looking at? I think it's a combination of all of them, but allowing myself more time to just focus on how do we make more money for the business.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
What
All
do
right.
you got, Chris?
Well, I guess mine is interesting in the sense that, and I've told lots of people this that we work with, what we do is we help operations and businesses thrive. And I hire a consultant from the outside of AgView to work with our operation, because when I sit down, I can't facilitate our family meetings in business, even though that's what I do. I need to participate as a member of the farm. And I think that's important for me, is to make sure that I totally utilize that third party consultation that I'm going to have this year, with the fact that we work through issues. And one of our big issues right now is, I think in our team, we're developing a scarcity mindset that is going to impact the operation for future growth, especially in the short term, if we don't make sure that we have ample ample resources on the labor side and then distribute them correctly. Because I think we're just not getting, we're stressing, and my partner, Randy Blinn, said one time when we were in the fall and we were running long hours, he's like, man, you're pulling these banjo strings awful tight, and I think that's what we're doing right now in our operations. We've got these banjo strings pulled so tight, something's going to snap. And so we gotta sit down and we got to discuss that is probably one of our primary issues this year, and not just discuss it, but we have to solve it. And so we want to make sure that we get that solved and say, okay, what's the solution? What do we need to do for labor, and how are we going to invest in it, as opposed to look at it as an expense, to make sure that it's generating more revenue and gets us right back to what you were saying is making more money. So I think that's really a key thing. So that's my wrap up. It looks like we might have lost Joe. Or are you still there, Joe?
He's done. He's ready to go take action.
He's like,
let's go.
oh, here he comes. He's like, I'm gonna.
Thought he moved on to 2026.
You went away, Joe. We thought you were going to work with the team right away.
I was like, out of hell with this.
Yep.
No, I got internet connection is not great up here.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, does anybody have any final thoughts? Otherwise, we can wrap it up. But Shay or anybody else, any final thoughts? Everybody good?
Good.
All right. Well, Happy New Year. We as AgView, that's on behalf of AgView, Shay and Jeremy and Joe and Andy and myself, we want to make sure that everybody knows that we're here with you. And my voice works. We're here with you, and we want to make sure that if you guys need anything, give us a shout. And hope you guys have a great new year. And with that said, we will catch you again next time on the AgView.